Hello, everyone, and welcome to Southern League Cavalier Football and the Mike McClure Coaches Show. I'm Austin Thomas, and I'll be your host as we talk Cavalier football here on WFJA. As always, I want to thank our sponsors for helping bring you our show each and every single Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. on 105.5 FM WFJA. Wilkinson Chevrolet, Domino's, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, and Jones Printing Company. A reminder that tonight's show will be rebroadcast at 6:30 this Friday night prior to our 7:30 game on 95.1 FM, 1050 AM, WWGP. Video of our coaches show will be posted on the WFJA Facebook page each Wednesday by noon. I look forward to bringing you exciting coverage tonight of Southern League football. We're going to take a short break and hear from some of our great sponsors. We'll be right back after these messages.
WFJA would like to thank the following advertisers for bringing you the Lee County Coaches Show: Jones Printing Company, Domino's, WilkinsonCars.com, Sheriff Brian Estes, Farm Bureau of Tramway, the Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, Fix It Plumbing, and Brick Capital Video.
And we welcome you back to the Coach Mike McClure Show here on WFJA Sports. Austin Thomas in studio here tonight. Coach McClure, unfortunately not able to be with us, did have a prior commitment, but I'm still excited to be here to talk about Southern League football. Kind of a look back on the previous game, and then, of course, looking ahead to our upcoming matchup on Friday evening. Now, of course, the Cavaliers are coming off of a bye week this past Friday, but we still have plenty of action to talk about from the previous week. The Cavaliers fell to Hoke County at Hoke County by a final score of 31-7. This was a game that, I think had a lot of energy going into it to begin with. Hoke County, of course, was celebrating homecoming on this night, so there were hundreds of people in the stands over on the home side. Just a really good energy throughout the entire stadium. And the Cavaliers seemingly were able to take advantage of that, especially early in the first half. The defense stepped up big time in the early stages of the game, holding Hoke County on fourth down two separate occasions, which for a Hoke County offense as potent as they've been all season, that was a really great thing to see from the Cavalier defense, who has been a shining star for the Cavs most of the season this year. And funny enough, Southern Lee actually took a lead into halftime. Your score after two quarters was actually 7-3, but unfortunately, Hoke County kind of found it, so to speak, in the locker room during halftime, and it was all Bucks the rest of the way in the third and fourth quarter. So your final score there is 31-7. And it more or less looked like a numbers game. You know, we've talked about that a lot this season. Hoke County, like many other schools within our conference, have just a plentiful roster of football players that they're able to switch in and out of to keep guys fresh, especially later on in the game. And it's a luxury, so to speak, that Southern Lee just unfortunately doesn't have right now. We can never say enough about the Cavaliers' effort in ball games, but at the end of the day, sometimes it does come down to available numbers, and you could see Southern Lee really start to wane as the game went on from the big physical Hoke County team, and that's how they were able to really pull away in the second half. But just still a tremendous effort by the Cavaliers. I think it's one of those games that, although the final score didn't necessarily reflect the outcome that you wanted, there was still plenty of effort to be had there. And that's one thing that Coach McClure and his staff have really commended about the Cavaliers all season long, is that their effort, their drive. These are a group of kids that haven't necessarily seen a ton of success in their high school careers, but still go out there and give it their absolute all. They have that hunger, so to speak, as they're looking for success on their football team. So hats off to the Cavs for another valiant effort Friday before last against Hoke County. But of course, although Coach McClure is not here, we're still going to recognize some of his players. As always, in our post-game show, my partner and I, Mike Fowler, we always select the offensive and defensive player of the game. So we want to highlight those young men while we're here on air tonight. So the Norman Financial Group and Bubba Subs and Pizza offensive player of the game for the Hoke County matchup was none other than Mr. Tyrese Douglas. We've certainly called his name quite a bit this season. Last Friday, Tyrese had 22 carries for 123 yards, including a touchdown on the ground. Also had 2 receptions for 10 yards. Tyrese is just a young man that continues to just be a shining star on this team, and as a junior still has plenty of room to grow, not only from a physical standpoint but from a football player standpoint. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting the mother of Tyrese Douglas after the game on Friday night. As Mike and I were making our way out of the stadium, I noticed a lady walking in front of me had a number 8 Southern Lee jersey on. So I asked her if she was indeed Tyrese's mom, and sure enough she was. And we commended her, on just what a tremendous young man she has as a son and as a football player. And I think she's enjoying seeing him have success as well. So hats off to Tyrese for being our Norman Financial Group and Bubba Subs and Pizza Offensive Player of the Game. And now our Norman Financial Group and Bubba Subs and Pizza Defensive Player of the Game that Mike and I selected. First time selecting this player is sophomore Jamari Hall. Jamari had several tackles the other Friday night, and that seems to be a consistent theme whenever we're selecting our defensive players of the game week in, week out. More often than not, they're a different player than who we selected the week prior. And I think what that shows is just that the Cavaliers have found a way to have so many different guys step up on the defensive side of the ball for them this year. And that goes back to, I believe, the coaching. Coach McClure is a defensive-minded kind of coach, and I think that's the thing that he's really tried to build up so far this year, and it's worked well. It's worked really well for them, especially compared to last year to this year. Guys are 1 year larger, 1 year faster, and combine that with their drive and their effort, the results are kind of showing on the field in terms of defensive production. And Jamari Hall is just part of that. And we've called many different names over the course of the season for Defensive Player of the Game. And so I think, again, that just goes back to guys stepping up when they're called upon and being able to do the job that Coach McClure and his staff are expecting them to do. So that's a wrap-up of our last game, which was against Hope County. Now, looking ahead to this coming Friday night, Cavaliers will be playing host to Union Pines, their final home game of the season. It will be homecoming at Cavalier Stadium, so all of you former Cavaliers or parents of former Cavaliers, be sure to come out and join us for the festivities. Hopefully it's going to warm up a little bit for this game as compared to the early part of the week, but nonetheless should be a great night of football against a pretty familiar opponent. The Union Pines Vikings this season are 2-6 overall. They are 0-4 in conference play, just like Southern Lee is. So both teams late in the season, not necessarily any postseason aspirations, but still looking for that first win within conference play. Southern Lee's been right there in a couple of games. Union Pines has as well. So this should be a good clash between two young, hungry teams that are looking ultimately to be able to come out with a victory on Friday night. And as I mentioned, it will be homecoming. And as we've seen in the past, whether it be at Southern, at other various schools, homecoming festivities in terms of how it affects the culture of a high school football game and everything that goes along with it, it's always just an added bonus, an added element to that week's game. So we're certainly looking forward to calling that on Friday night. We want to thank you for listening to the Coach Mike McClure Show here this evening. I want to remind you to join us each and every single Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. on 105.5 FM WFJA, and this Friday night prior to the game at 6:30 on WWGP 95.1 FM 1050 AM. Our Coaches Show is also posted on the WFJA website and Facebook page each Wednesday by noon. We also want to remind you to check out the WFJA website. Go to Sports, then High School Football, and you will see a choice of pages which include our results page with complete game articles posted by midnight each and every single week after the game, conference standings and power rankings, schedules for all teams in the Sandhills Athletic Conference, and up-to-date season stats for the Southern League Cavaliers. Good luck to the Cavaliers this Friday night as they celebrate homecoming and take on the Union Pines Vikings. I want to thank all of our sponsors for bringing our show to you tonight: Wilkinson Chevrolet, Domino's, Farm Bureau of Tramway, Sheriff Brian Estes, Dairy Bar and Flame Restaurants, and Jones Printing Company. And we thank you for listening to WFJA and WWGP Sports. It's time for Southern League football.